and welcome to the New Earth Co-Creators Podcast. We are so excited that you are here. We're excited to be here, and we are so excited we have the beautiful Isabel Hunt back with us.
I
We
am
missed
back.
you. We
Yes.
missed you. We missed you.
Hey.
I am Deborah Bishop, otherwise known as Rev Deb, and of course we have, as he declares himself to be the UK Spider-Man. I just call him Spider-Man, but Mr. Peter Paul Parker. Hello, everybody.
Hey. Hello.
Hello.
So we have an interesting topic today, one that could go in many, many different directions. And the one precursor I will say to what we're going to discuss is that, take what's true for you, let go of the rest, and recognize that the opportunity to have conversation, whether we agree or don't agree with all the points of view, is such a precious, precious opportunity for us to share and have. So listen with open heart and open ears. So Isabel, this actually sort of came from you. So why don't you sort of introduce this topic, please?
Yes. For not this last week, the week before, so 2 weeks ago, we went to Texas, Dallas, Texas, for the World Championship for robotics. My son qualified, and they have this huge slogan about girl power. And we were already warned that because my son has two girls on his team, he's going to get a sticker that says girl power, and he's supposed to put that on his booth. And it was interesting because I had some mixed emotions, of course. For one, I felt this huge protection of my son. It's like, okay, I have a son, not a girl power. What's going on? But Jonah actually came to me and he's like, I don't understand this. I know I have two girls on my team, but where am I? Do I get a boy power sticker as well? And it really hit me. They're all 9 years old, right? That these children don't understand what adults are trying to accomplish with this well-meant background of equality that is actually creating more division. And then we had another girl come to me and she said, Miss Isabel, I don't quite get it. Are we girls? Do we all need this help? Do we need these stickers? Can we not just be acknowledged for the work that we get to do, and not just because we're girls, but for actually what we bring to the table? And I'm like, you have a really good point there. Both of you do. And they were discussing it back and forth and how they just don't understand it, why they can't just be, why do we even have to mention it? And now I don't want to, diminish the efforts of the organization, because we know we do have less women or less girls in STEM related areas than boys, but that's also a biological way their brains work a little differently, right? And then we also have the girls who absolutely love math and robotics and are really good at it, but each have their part to play in each of those areas, right? And so I think often with these equality agendas, we do more harm than good. I get it, sometimes I call it virtue signaling. Other times it's a true effort of bringing more awareness. But what are we doing to these young generations? They don't understand it, and yet we're slapping it on them and believe we're doing something good, when in 10 years down the road, we need a sticker that says boy power because we totally forgot about the other side. And I realized one thing: no matter what you look at, especially nowadays, any kind of equality agenda is always on the expense of the other side. There's always someone, it's never this way. We're not actually creating equality. It's more about revenge. If you notice that with the talking points and, women here and women that, and equality and men, I said to one of my friends, I said, people are making fun of men who knit, who sew, who are more into these kind of activities. And yet they go about and, have this whole transgender ideology about, oh my God, my child is playing with a doll. How dare we? And then we're supposed to change their genders, and they're probably female driven, and we accept that. And yet we're creating them down the road, like, this whole divide of girl power, boy power. No, we don't even say boy power.
No.
But it's like this whole hypocrisy where we're just running around the circle over and over and over and think we're maybe doing something good. Yet we're creating more divide and more confusion, like absolute confusion. A lot of people can't even talk about it anymore because it's like, I don't know what to say without offending anyone.
Well, and I wonder what happened to the idea of why can't we just let children be children?
Yes.
Because that seems to be completely off the table anymore. You know, we have what we say in North America is this woke agenda in schools where they're just throwing these children down these rabbit holes that they have no capacity to understand.
No, not at all. Their
And
brain is not even developed to that point of understanding. You program them, and that's what people don't. Oh, those kids know exactly. Yeah, they have an intuition, but that intuition is not a divide within themselves. It's literally like, oh, today I like skirts, or today I like, pants. I mean, I had a phase as a child where I didn't want to wear any dresses. Did my mom come out and say, oh, you're gay or you're transgender or, no, she's like, okay, whatever. I grew out of it. Eventually I wear both. It's like this discovery phase as children. Do we have to slap labels on it? Can we let girls play with cars and STEM related activities, robotics? Can we just allow boys to discover the nurturing side of themselves by letting them play with dolls, by allowing them to just, be present? I mean, there's just so much stigma and judgment around it, and yet we fight for the rights of the children. But what about the right of discovery, of curiosity?
We go back in history a little bit. We go back in history a little bit, where like 15th century, the men were wearing tights and short skirts and we're wearing long dresses. So it's been all messed up and confusing for the children. I was so blessed because I had a very, it didn't last very long, for about 11 years, because my mother died when I was 11, but I had a very blessed childhood of a really healthy influence of both young girls and young boys around me, and I saw them all as human beings. I wasn't polarized at all, and that really was quite a shocker for me when I got ripped out of my house, a home, when my mother died and put straight into an all boys boarding school. And that in itself was really traumatic as well, with the priests telling you how you should be living and stuff like that. And they would try, and that actual conditioning of that kind of school in the UK, I think it's the same in America. Correct me if I'm wrong, Deborah, but is to make you feel like you're superior to a woman. And I was thinking, this is so confusing for me, and this is not right, because I was with that. My mother was a really strong figure of the house. My father was a real male energy, cut and thrust, going out, making the money. My mother was the archetypal mother who was just the nurturer and looking after, but her work was just as important as my father's. And it just seemed really balanced. But I'm not saying that's the archetype as a woman and an archetype as a man, because that's your male and female energy, which we all have inside of us. But what we've lost is the vision of saying, well, like you were saying so articulately, that there might be a little boy with more female energy inside of him, a little girl with more male energy inside of him. And we're not recognizing that. We're going, well, there must be something wrong with you because you have these female attributes. There's nothing wrong with them whatsoever. It's just that energy is more significant in their body, and that is to be actually treasured, because then you start to realize that there's not a lot to the polarities between the male and the female. And yes, there's a biological difference. Yes, there's certain biological characteristics that are different, but this whole polarization of male female, I find it really, really disturbing, because human beings are not knowing what they are anymore.
Well, and it's great fodder, right? It's great fodder for agenda. It's great fodder to keep people fighting and at odds with each other. On a spiritual sort of woo-woo note, the rays of creation are what we're actually talking about when you say more masculine energy inside of a female child, more male energy inside of a more female energy inside of a male child. There's 7 rays of creation, and just short, sweet, and they're masculine, feminine, and we all come in on our ray of creation. That's the way it is. Has nothing to do with our sexuality. Has nothing to do with our biochemistry at all. Has nothing to do with our gender. It's just the ray of creation we come in on. And there are boys that come in on the feminine ray, and there are girls that come in on the masculine ray. And what that means is they have more of that energy. I personally, love men who come in on the feminine ray. They tend to be a little more spiritual. They have a little more sensibility. They trust their intuition a little bit more. They tend to have, it's like, I guess it was what we might have called a metrosexual male at one point, you know, where they were just like, you know, I don't know, they would like to go shopping, but they're still a man, you know. They're a really beautiful combination. And likewise for women that are in on a masculine ray, they tend to just have a greater understanding of how the masculine mind might work and how they relate to men and so forth like that. But it has nothing to do with their biochemical reality. It has nothing to do with their gender. It has nothing to do with their sexuality. It's just got to do with the ray of creation that they come in on. Mm-hmm. And then that said, that was a little bit of little spiritual schooling there. Is also, you know, who is not confused in their adolescence? Who, when they hit their adolescence, when they're pre-adolescent, when they're 10, 11, 12, and their hormones are starting to kick in, and God knows with all of the hormones, at least in North America, in our foods and our products and so forth, they're driving people into early adolescence, into women or girls are getting their periods at much earlier age because they've got the higher percentages of body fat. It's tricking their body clock into doing stuff. And it's like, yeah, it's an incredibly confusing time. And we're not allowing for any of that to happen. We're moving into this thing of like, oh, you don't feel quite right. Like, oh, you're not getting along with the girls in your class, or oh, you're not getting along with the boys in the class. Hey, I was somebody that I never had a lot of friends in school. Mm-hmm. I just didn't. I didn't relate. Now, part of that was things going on in my world, but part of it too was just I was just different. And I was okay with it, but it made me more of a loner. You know, I had like a friend that's still my friend. We're, you know, in each other's in second grade, adore, love each other. We're family, you know, and it's like, so, okay, if I was in today's culture, then I would be being told a lot of stuff as to why I don't have a lot of girlfriends or a lot of whatever. And I've always actually related in some ways better to men than I have to women. That's
Me
changed,
too, especially the older I got. The older I
Mm-hmm.
got, the more I was able to act. It was easier for me to interact with men than with women. And I'm not quite sure where that's coming from or why, because I have 3 brothers, but we are not that close. So I don't know. But it is, you know, if I were to live in today's time, the way what we see on social media, what they get to see on the news, all of that, the talk at school, I'd be depressed. I'd be so confused and depressed and lost and would feel helpless because not even the parents are on any kind of solid ground. They're all shaking the same way and there's nothing firm, nothing you can rely on that will stay, that will be there, and you can just kind of experiment around that, you know, that solid ground. How is one supposed to find themselves, to discover themselves if everyone is shaking around them and everything, right? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I got depressed in my 20s, like really bad, because I studied the wrong subjects, got really off track there. And if I were to add all of that to it, oh my God, like I probably would try to kill myself.
Yeah. Jump out, check out of it, because it's turned into madness now. I think it's turned into insane. But in my humble opinion, how I'm seeing this roll out, there is an undercurrent now of kids in their teenage years, just maybe sort of late teenage. They're starting to see this. They're starting to question it. Not many, but that will grow and grow and grow. And they're becoming more nurturing and more caring because of this. I feel that's because of the astrology of all of this. So the Piscean age coming out of this like top down sort of controlling aspect coming into the female sort of aspect of it. And you're right with the hat, the female is the future.
It's coming perfect, in, isn't it?
It's coming in with the Aquarius, the age of Aquarius. What they want with that female hyper energy is to be the nanny state next, so that they control every aspect of your life. So what best way of doing that is to make everything completely confusing. And I personally feel that there will be a backlash against that. That will say, no, you know, And there are good people on this world that are actually nurturing really good children, little communities that are growing, where the children, and I've met a few of them through some of the Qigong work that I've done, you go, wow, you are awesome. Mainly from, they say that the mantle's going around the world and the mantle's going to end up somewhere in Southeast Asia. And going to Southeast Asia and seeing that Qigong is actually going into all the schools over there, and then you meet the children, you see what phenomenal young beings they are. I think that will be something that will spread across the world at some point, very slowly, to bring this up out of the complete mire that we're in at the moment. I find it absolutely repulsive that people could actually think that they're bringing up children respectfully, carefully, and lovingly in the way that we're doing it at the moment, especially in the West, because it is, you're right, it's all confusing.
Yeah.
I got depressed when I realized how bad the world was. You want me to go out and make enough money to pay you back the money that you lent me to live here, and then I got to go out and then make food and entertain myself and do all this kind of stuff? Why? I did ask the question, why do you want me to do that? And I got depressed because of that, because I'm thinking, why? And then I watched everybody from my school, which was a good school, all go up to the city, all got involved with that 2008 crash, building up, all becoming millionaires, buying big properties and things like that. I'm thinking, well, I could have done that, and I'm glad I didn't. I could have done that quite easily. I could have gone in there, just sold myself out, and I could have gone up there and actually done that whole thing. And I'm glad I didn't, because it made me realize that's not what I want. And I think there's more children who don't want that. I saw a 7-year-old about 8 years ago. She was reading the Financial Times in the UK, which is like one of the top banking papers. And she was reading about the central banking system, the Bank of England, which is a private banking system. And she was talking about the fiat currency and how they create it out of thin air and how we have to pay it back. And she read this paragraph out of the Financial Times. She looked straight into the camera and said, "You lot are all putting up with that? What's the matter with you?" Just, oh, yes, what a brilliant girl.
Out of the mouths of babes, out of the mouths of babes,
That's it. I think we're taking away the power of the children and the way we're talking to the children right now, and the talking points in general. We're creating more division than ever. And that has nothing to do with accepting anyone who is transgender or who feels differently or who has a different sexual orientation. It has nothing to do with that. We love those people, and I have quite a few friends who fall into those categories, and I love them as much as if they were anything else. It is the way we're talking about it, and the way society is literally pushing and programming it into children to the point where they question themselves, and it's more pointed at themselves than just being a free thinker and questioning the institution. No, because they trust their caregivers, they trust their parents, and well, what mom says and dad says is probably valid. As a parent, you have a very, very important role of guidance to play. And if you don't take that seriously and you start to confuse your child even more with the agenda that is actually or should be between adults to discuss and not with children, I mean, I think where do you fit in as a child?
I think it's important, though, to also recognize, because I don't want to point fingers at parents and just say, oh, you shouldn't be doing this, because parents are getting a tremendous amount of pressure. They're getting told they have to do this. They're being told they're bad if they don't. They're being told that they don't love their children. They're being told all of these things. And of course, they've been brought up through a society that has formed all of these opinions. I mean, this didn't happen overnight. This has been the way we've been going for a while. And so they feel like they're lost. They're equally as lost, because parents will do anything. They want their child to be happy, and they're being told that, they're keeping happiness from their children and so forth. So, I think it's something that is structurally just not being handled with any finesse. I think it's being handled with more of a calculated reality. I think that it is serving on a whole different level of an agenda that is out there. And okay, you want to use, you know, you want to call me that beautifully branded word, a conspiracist or something like this. I don't feel that that's what that is. But at the same time, what a beautiful branding for people to go, oh, now they're talking about whatever, right? It's like, what if what we're saying actually has some truth? Like, who really benefits from this type of separation, from this type of fear, from this type of manipulation, to where a child, an adolescent, a teenager will be so outraged at their family because they're believing something to be true, and now they're being withheld from, and they're not being allowed to do what they want to do. I mean, is there ever a point in time in our lives where we feel more pissed off than when we're teenagers, and we think we know, and we're just totally right because everything is raging through us, and then that just pulls families apart. You know, now we've got kids that leave the house because this is not safe for me. I have to go find a safe environment because I'm not being allowed to be who I am. And then
they're being drawn to those who take advantage of them because they're like, oh yes, we will love you for whoever you are and come to us. You know, we've seen it online with a lot of these really strange profiles. I mean, they should be behind bars the way they're talking. It is very interesting how we just normalize certain things that are going against everything that love stands for. If it's pedophilia, you know, all of that, and we're mounting that into children's brains, like so many books that now parents are reporting are being read at school about I mean, whoever's listening, about, you know, anal sex and oral sex between children and how it's being normalized. Like, all these things are coming with these agendas that it's 1 + 1 + 1 + 1. And these kids are getting more and more confused with any of that. What started out as, I think, at the core, as a really valid point and as a place from the heart, we want more equality, has been pushed to the brink of complete devastation. And we're doing more harm than good at this time and space within this society. And I think more people need to step up and just say that's enough. It's enough. It's simply enough.
Yeah, and also backing up what Deborah said, with this climate agenda as well. Of course, they're destroying the environment with all the activities they're doing, but the man-made climate change, I've looked into it. I'm not sure how much of that agenda is true and how much it isn't. But they're teaching the kids that we are bad, we do this, so therefore you can have a go at your parents, and therefore that's causing another division between the child and the parent, thinking, well, my parents are climate changers, you know. They're causing all this problem where they have no choice to come out of what we've been given. We could have been given different technologies to have our energy, have our transport system and things like that, but no, we were given technologies that could be monopolized. That's the only reason we're using oil and things like that. So that's important. But the kids are looking at that saying, oh, you use a car, and so I've got no choice but to use a car because I live so far away from many of the utilities that I need to use. I think it's incredibly terrible what they've done.
It's creating division. It's pulling things apart. And it's like anything like that. It's like, okay, dare I say this, but, you know, here we are all white, right? Not because it makes any difference. I could have cared less, Peter, what color you were, Isabel, what color you are, where you know, none of that. But as it turns out, the three of us are white. So, okay, this whole podcast could be completely just set aside and not listened to for that reason alone. For that reason alone. And I know for myself, I don't not watch things because somebody is of a different faith or of a different skin color or ethnicity. I don't like go, oh, I'm not gonna even listen to what they have to say because no, that's what it. But yeah, we are in this cultural reality, especially in the Western world, where, you know, anything and everything now, you know, we're racist. We're all racist. We're just all racist by the mere if we're born with white skin, we are automatically born racist. That would appear to be the absolute agenda here in the Western world at this time, right? And all it's doing is creating more separation and more upset and more, it's making this a really weird thing. It's like, okay, yes, there were things that happened in the past that were very unjust and terrible. And if I was there, I would not be going, yay, I would be going, no, but here's the thing, we're not there, we're here. And the pendulum swinging in the opposite direction is not the solution, because it's just replicating the division, the hatred, it's just moving it in the other direction. And as long as we continue to do these things, we remain apart. We do not have a community.
Have you noticed that every time we get to a place in history where people suddenly start to get along, and it's not even part of the conversation anymore, people live together. I mean, our neighborhood is probably about 60-70% African American and other races, so it's very, very mixed. As soon as people start to actually get along, it feels good. We don't even care, we're all just friends. Something needs to come in. Have you guys watched Lost, the series Lost, a couple years ago?
Yes.
Right, that smoke that comes in, the black cloud, it's pretty much like that. Every time everything starts to kind of become more harmonic and more settled, that black cloud comes in, guns, very subtle, very like, oh, let's see what we can bring with this, and kind of, bring it all back up and bring another divide and another discussion. And then, of course, people want to be part of the good side. And then whatever story we create, we're ending up on the good side. If you're against that, you must be either racist, transphobic, or whatever else there is of phobias that people bring up, right? And as long as people don't realize that and can take a step back and say, oh my God, I'm just buying into the agenda. I feel like I want to be part of the support group and the love and, and accepting and that virtue signaling, but I'm actually part of the divide as well. We need to all step back and just actually come together instead of supporting a certain agenda like this black fog that just moves slowly through. And it just tells us that we are in a spiritual war, in a very nasty
very deep spiritual war. It's like we've got it in the UK now, part of our green agenda, and the kids must be getting confused with this. Part of our green agenda is actually nuclear power. And what a lot of people don't seem to realize is that if we did have an EMP, an electromagnetic pulse, even just came from the sun, let alone anything else like a satellite, all these nuclear power stations will become like Chernobyl, which was like Eastern Europe. And they will all start to just seep out this nuclear waste, and it would be a complete disaster. So, of course, to be green and thinking about like the precautionary principle again, which we don't seem to think about at all anymore in the West or anywhere in the world, that you're going to build up more nuclear power stations with that thought in the back of your mind. It's like not looking at the future. It's looking at somebody's bank balance who can actually farm the uranium, which is usually going towards the Rothschild family, which from my research many years ago, I saw that. But it is what is happening today. It must be so confusing for these poor kids. I remember speaking to a child on the bus, and I asked him to turn his Walkman down because it was really loud in my ears, and he turned around. We started being really hostile towards each other, and then I started saying, well, you're just going in with this meme that you've been born into, that you should be aggressive and violent. And then he said, well, where do you get that from? And we started to have an intelligent conversation about what was happening in the world. And then we started to say, well, I've seen this and I've seen this and I've seen this, and we're going, and then we ended up literally hugging each other as we walked off the bus, going, yeah, keep up your good fight, my friend. And he was only 12, 13, a really angry young boy, but all he needed was like some sort of male influence or some sort of female influence, even just to say, you're okay, don't worry about your mental illness, you're not mentally ill, you're good.
And everything that doesn't align with the agenda is mentally ill. Right? Something wrong.
I mean, they've been trying to do that now. Oh, you didn't do this? Well, then you should be on antidepressants, because there is really something wrong with you. There's a lot going on. We've got like 2 minutes left, guys. The one thing about the green and why you said it's so confusing, and we might want to talk about this on another show, but it's the hijacking of words and phrases that they use that mean nothing. about what they're doing. It's
Yeah.
just, it sounds really good. It looks
Yeah.
really good, right? So yeah, that's just part of that confusion. So everybody wants to come aboard. We'd love to have you check us out. Hey, Isabel, tell them where they go for New Earth.
Yes, to find out more about us, go to newearthcc.org, newearthcc.org. It will be on the video as well. And join the conversations.
Peter, how do they find out about us in that way?
The Conscious Muse Collective, consciousmusecollective.com, or Conscious Music for the People as a Facebook group. You can come and find us there. We're doing regular meditations, and we've got a concert coming up in August, so you'll surely hear more about that if you actually just hook up with us. So look forward to meeting you there.
Tuesdays at what is it, noon Central, 6 p.m. UK.
Yeah.
We are doing like 15-20 minute live meditation, so join us if you would like to do that. As always, guys, you know, I love being here with you. This was a pretty brave conversation. Again, I really invite everybody out there, take what's true for you, let go of the rest, and understand that, you know, this is just a conversation. We deserve to have them. We deserve to express. We deserve to, and so do you. You're welcome to join us in this conversation and join us in our communities. And you know, it's really about us coming together and finding that path, because in history we have not found it. So we need to be the pioneers of a new path and a new way. So much love to everybody. Much love to you, Isabel, and to you, Peter.
Yes, thank you.
Virtual
Everyone have a great day.
Yeah.
We will see you next time, and together we rise. Peace.
Hey. Definitely.